Today we'll be talking about the programs, the courses, the offerings that are available to professionals through Stanford. And I am joined by my colleague Petra Parakova. So my name is Pax Haymeyer. I'm the Director of Academic Programs. So I oversee those parts of the artificial intelligence programs that are credit-bearing that professionals can take. And I'll be going into detail about those. And Petra, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Pax, and welcome everybody to our AI info session. I am the Associate Director of Computer Science and AI Programs at SCPD, and I'm focused more on the professional end of the portfolio. And just to kind of give you a little bit more context before we dive into our major AI programs, we do have one big program that is AI graduate program that Pax will be talking to you a little bit more about all the specifics. What does this mean? That I will be covering the AI professional certificate program, but we wanted to kind of bring this to your attention that these are not the only things we are offering as part of SCPD, Stanford Center for Professional Development. If you are new to the field, you don't have much experience with computer science and kind of the prerequisites that we will be talking about shortly. There is Coursera machine learning specialization that is a little bit more introductory. We have building an AI-enabled organization, which is focused more kind of on the business end or kind of the business-related topics. And we also have courses like AI in healthcare that are kind of specifically focused on the healthcare industry. So there's a lot of things that are going on in the field, not just the two big things we will be covering in this session. And in addition to that, we totally understand that sometimes kind of paying for courses can be out of reach, or that you would like to kind of first get an idea of what you might be getting yourself into before you enroll. And we also have a lot of YouTube lectures that we will be talking about freely available on YouTube. So we do recommend that you go to Stanford Online YouTube page, take a look. We have a lot of content available for free. And also we are trying to run webinars regularly, also on the topics focused on AI. So you will be able to follow up on those too. But without further ado, Pax will tell you a little bit more about the kind of the AI graduate package.
Great, thank you, Petra. And one thing to note is this presentation will also go on our YouTube page, and we'll also send a recording out of it to all of you in about a week. So if you have to drop off, you'll be able to find it, or you'll get it sent to you. And the other thing I'll mention is this is interactive, so feel free. We're going to be talking about these programs, but we know there are always a lot of questions, so feel free to post those as we talk. Petra and I will try to answer those that we can. We'll stop and answer some of them. We also have our other colleagues who are here who are answering those questions sort of individually. So if you see, if they may respond if we can't respond, or if it's a sort of a straightforward question about logistics. So building on what Petra said, I'm going to talk about the AI graduate certificate. So this is a certificate that is available through Stanford. It is a credit-bearing certificate. So you're going to be taking classes, and I'm going to go into some more detail, but at a high level, these are the same classes that are happening on campus, and you would be joining them as an online student. As you complete those classes, you get a Stanford transcript. If you were to be admitted into a master's program at Stanford that was relevant to this, you could transfer up to 18 of those units that you earned as what we call a non-degree student towards that master's degree. So at a high level, these are the actual classes that are happening on campus. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about what that means exactly, but I think it's important to stress these are not this is not an extension program. These are the same courses that are happening on campus, and you're taking it alongside the students. To build on another thing that Petra mentions, the YouTube content, a lot of these courses, their lectures are available on YouTube, as well as their syllabi are available publicly. So if you look at any individual course under this AI graduate certificate, there's a good chance, if you look at it in our site, you'll see a little area where it says course materials, and it should say course website. If you click on that, it'll take you to probably the most recent version of that course. And there you can see, in many cases, they'll have all the assignments, they'll have the schedule, they'll have, they'll even sometimes have example projects from past offerings of the course. It's a really valuable place to go when you're considering a course for the AI graduate program or for the professional program, to get a sense of what's covered in these classes. And as I said, in many cases, and as Petra said, you can find the lectures as well available on YouTube. So if you're a very motivated and disciplined person, you could go through a lot of this material on your own. A lot of it is freely available. Part of what Stanford is trying to do is just make this information more broadly available, and that's why we have so many different ways of offering this. Okay, so the core of what the program requires, the AI graduate certificate requires, is you have to complete at least one of the required courses, which is the Artificial Intelligence Principles and Techniques or the Machine Learning class. You could take both of them, but you have to do at least one, and then you complete at most 3 electives. And you can see the list of electives that are available there, and we are adding to that, and it's kind of a constantly changing mix in terms of the electives. So that's at the core of what it is. Let me go into a little bit more detail. I already see some good questions about eligibility and those kinds of things. I'll get into that in a second. I do just want to emphasize, what the nature of the program is, again, because it is fairly unique. So again, it's the actual Stanford graduate courses, right? They're happening on campus. We schedule them in one of our rooms where we have technicians who record those lectures. Sometimes they're broadcast live. That depends on the faculty member's choice. And then you would be enrolled in that class. You're following along like every other Stanford, all the Stanford students. You're doing the same assignments. You're held to the same standards, and you're completing the same work. You would watch the lectures at your convenience, again, following the schedule. You would join office hours available on Zoom. Again, not all office hours may be available on Zoom, but there will be some that are available online. There's usually some kind of discussion forum that's available. And then most of the assignments that you're going to be submitting will be submitted online anyway. And a lot of the other materials are already available online. And you would have access, you would have a Stanford email, Stanford login, and you'd be able to access some of the electronic resources that are available. So you will be basically an online student in an on-campus class. And that's important to emphasize because it's an opportunity and also a challenge of this particular program. It's an opportunity because it is exactly the same material. And again, this is the desire of Stanford to make this material available more broadly to professionals around the world. It's also a challenge because it means that you are an online student. It's in a class that also has a lot of on-campus students. And so there are obviously challenges to that, right? You cannot turn to the student sitting next to you in class. You may be in a different time zone. So it's important to keep that in mind when you're deciding to take a credit-bearing class. As I said before, these are actual Stanford courses, so you are earning a Stanford transcript as you take these classes. You are getting a grade in them. You need to earn a B or better to keep taking classes as a non-degree student. And if you were admitted into a master's degree, you could transfer up to 18 of those units towards the degree. And I see a timely question about the total degree. It's 45 units for a master's degree, typically for a master's degree at Stanford. So that it's about a third of the master's degree you could complete as a non-degree student. Again, you have to be admitted into the program, and there are plenty of people who've completed as a certificate as a non-degree student, and they don't end up getting into the master's degree, but you still have the certificate. You still have, the material that you learned. So let me, so if I emphasize there the ways in which it is the on-campus class, there are some things about the broader certificate or the non-degree option program that are flexible. And so the first is that you can enroll in any quarter of courses offered. I'll go into the application, again, eligibility in a second, but the applications, anytime there's a quarter where there's a course that's being offered online that you're interested in, you can apply and enroll at that time. Now, again, your enrollment still needs to be approved, but it's very flexible about when you apply. I'm emphasizing the graduate certificate here, but you don't have to pursue a certificate. You can choose to just take individual courses, and you can take individual courses outside of any particular certificate. So you're welcome to take a course that's under sort of the artificial intelligence graduate certificate, and then take one that's, say, under robotics and autonomous systems, or something that's completely different. So you have a lot of flexibility in what courses you take. It's not a program in the same way a degree program might be. And I did want to mention that there are a lot of other courses outside of the AI graduate certificate that are adjacent or related to artificial intelligence, or are fundamentally about artificial intelligence. I'm calling out here on this slide the robotics and autonomous systems, as well as the data models and optimization graduate certificates, which also have a lot of important material that's relevant to anyone working in that field. The other part that's really nice is you don't need to be continuously enrolled. And what that means is any of you who did a degree program, you have to take courses every single quarter. You have to maintain a certain minimum number of units. If you don't, you need to take a leave of absence or withdrawal. In this one, you could take a course in the autumn. You could take winter off, and then you could take a course in the spring. You could take a course in the autumn and then the next autumn. And there are a lot of students who do that, who choose to take one course a year. Maybe they don't even pursue a certificate. They have that time once a year, and so they choose to do this. If you are pursuing a certificate, you do need to finish that coursework within 3 years. So that's basically from the time you take the first course that's part of the certificate to when you take that last course to count towards the certificate. That needs to be 3 years, but there's no, but if you're not pursuing a certificate, there's no limit on just, you can continue to take courses as long as you are being approved by the departments to take those courses. I see some good questions. I see some good questions about eligibility. So let me just mention here. Okay, so there are some prerequisites. So what's going to happen, and I'll go into the application process in a little bit more detail, is you would apply, and part of that application is your transcripts and a short statement. And then every time you enroll in a class, the department's going to pull up that application and they're going to review it. And as you take classes, they'll review your Stanford transcript as well. So you're not admitted into a program, you're not admitted into a certificate, you have your enrollment approved for every course. So these prerequisites are broadly speaking for the whole, what you would need at the bare minimum to be successful and earn the graduate certificate in artificial intelligence. But the individual prerequisites for individual courses may be different. And again, the prerequisites for other programs or other courses may be different and may be less than this. But broadly speaking, for the AI graduate program or graduate certificate, you will need a bachelor's degree. That actually is true across the board. For computer science classes, you need a GPA of 3.0 or better for your undergraduate degree. It may be higher for some classes. So for instance, aero and astronautics, I believe, requires an undergraduate GPA of 3.5. And there are some aero and astronautics courses that are part of the artificial intelligence certificate. In terms of coursework that you'll want to have completed and probably be pretty up to date in, or at least review before you begin the courses, will be college calculus and linear algebra. And again, multivariable calculus. So this would be like a semester or a quarter beyond what would be BC calculus in the States, the AP, the advanced AP in the US. You'd want a little bit more calculus than that, as well as linear algebra. You're going to want probability theory. They say basic probability theory, but for a lot of them, they do ask you to have probability theory and statistics, that kind of post-calculus probability and theory and statistics, so more advanced. And you're going to want to have programming experience. A lot of these are in Python, but it'd be useful to have other languages as well under your belt, and it can vary from course to course. So there's a lot there. This is not an introductory program. These are graduate level computer science, electrical engineering, and aero and astronautics and statistics courses. So they are advanced courses, and they're quite hard. I mean, that's the other thing to note is when you jump in to take these classes, any of you who have gone to graduate school or have taken advanced classes, you'll know they can take 15 to 25 hours. They're like a part-time job. They're very consuming, very hard classes, and I think that's worth stressing. As Petra mentioned at the beginning, there are other things. If you feel like you're not quite ready for this, or you want just at the ground level, there are other things that we can recommend through the Stanford Online that would be worthwhile for you to explore. We do offer some of the basic prerequisites through Stanford Online. So we do offer Math 51, which is basically multivariable calculus and linear algebra, but you would already need to have had, single variable calculus, a year of single variable calculus. And we do offer some courses on probability theory and statistics. So let me talk a little bit about the application. So it's a simple application. You're going to create an account with us. You're going to submit that application with transcripts and residency documents. So the key things here, you're going to have a statement of purpose. This is where you're going to explain why you're interested in taking the classes. It's also actually a useful place to explain any ways in which you meet prerequisites that may not stand out on your educational background. So an example is maybe you've never taken a programming class in college, but you've worked as a programmer for like 10 years because you're self-taught. that would be something you could mention in your statement of purpose. Then there are some personal information and residency status that we need. Then you fill out your professional experience, a little bit like a resume or a CV, and then you also fill out your educational background in addition to submitting the transcripts. And then at that point, once that's submitted, you can enroll in a course. Anytime you enroll in a course, it's always dependent on final approval from the department. As I said, what will happen is, say, after this session, you're really excited about it. You say, I'm going to go enroll in deep generative models, which is one of the courses offered this fall. You know you meet the prerequisites. You go, you fill out your application, you submit it. We'll have your spot saved, but we're going to send that application to the department, and there's someone there is going to review it and say, yep, this person meets the prerequisites. They're approved to enroll in that course, and at that point, your enrollment would be final, and you could start taking the course. But there are many times when it's not approved, and that can be because you don't meet the prerequisites. That's usually what it is. There can be other reasons as well. So I'll stop there. Let me see other questions here. It looks like a lot of these have been answered.
Pat, I think there was a question multiple times that came up about what if I took deep learning specialization, machine learning specialization, some resources from online courses that are not necessarily degrees. Do they qualify as kind of a prerequisites for understanding of the subject for applying for the graduate program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So they could, right? That would be the kind of thing you would maybe include in your statement of purpose. But they are going to want to see that you have, they're going to want it will be harder to make that case, right? So if you have a background like myself, if you have a degree in English literature or something like that, and then you apply and you say, I've taken a couple Coursera courses, they may not feel that rises to the level of being eligible to take some of these courses because they're quite hard. And something like CS 229, you're going to be writing mathematical proofs, right? You're going to really need to understand not just how to apply probability, but really, you'll need to understand the theory underneath it. And so they do want to make sure that you can be successful in these classes. And so there can be instances where those kinds of things can count for it. But I think if you came in with completely self-taught, they might not, it's always up to the department. They might not approve that, or they need a little bit more from you to sort of feel confident that you'll be successful. So an example of what might be, so maybe you have an undergraduate degree in mathematics, but you didn't have programming, and so you took a few sort of Coursera programming courses. They might feel comfortable letting you in to kind of the first course to see how it goes in that example, because they'd feel confident that you have at least a strong grounding in some of those requirements. If you don't have that background, you're interested in kind of starting and building it up, we do offer graduate certificates in programming and foundations in computer science. And those are, again, pretty rigorous classes. Expect to spend 15 to 20 hours a week on those as well. And they'll walk you through the basics of programming, as well as discrete math, probability theory for computer scientists, and other courses like that. And those would be a strong foundation getting you ready for these programs. Petra, were there other questions that you saw?
I think there was also a question if you can kind of mix and match the professional courses and the graduate courses. Like if you start with one of them, like does it prevent you from taking the other courses in the future?
Great question. It does not. And I think we're seeing more and more people opting into switching between two of them. So officially for the professional program, you can count one graduate course towards it. And the idea there is that if there's an elective, because the graduate courses, as you'll see, we have more offerings than you have in the professional program, partly because we work with the department to offer what's available on campus. And so that is official. We're in terms of the other way, where you cannot count a professional course cannot count for academic credit, but you can certainly mix and match, right? So maybe there's a version where you don't want to take a certain class in the graduate program, either because it's going to be too much time or too much work, and yeah, you can take it as a professional as well. Let's see, there's a question about, there's a really good question here about you having completed a master's degree a while ago and the math prerequisites. So some of this is dependent on you. If say you completed your master's degree 10 years ago and you did all the prerequisites at that point, they're probably, I can't guarantee it, but they probably say, okay, yeah, this person did linear algebra as a master's student, 10 years ago. They have the foundations. Now, that you did it 10 years ago, and you probably don't remember it that well. So it would really be important that you review that material before you jump into the class, because you're going to want to have it somewhat up to date. Now, most of these classes do begin with some review or have sessions that for those of you who need a review, because it's not just you, it's a lot of the students might need a review, a brush up on linear algebra, or probability, or statistics. And so they do usually begin with some level of review. But if it's been 10 years, you might want to set aside some time before beginning the class to do a more in-depth review. And that is, again, a really good reason for going to those course pages and taking a look at, and every single course, I should say, in the Stanford Artificial Intelligence Graduate Certificate, every single one of them has a course website. So it's not true of all the courses that we offer through for graduate credit, but it's true for those. So I would take a look at those course websites, take a look at the material. Some of them even have like what they call problem set zeros, where they'll say, look at this problem set. If you feel comfortable with this material, then you should be okay in this class. If you don't, then you might want to take a different class. So that is, it's a great question. You want to make sure it's somewhat up to date. Petra, were there other questions before we move on to the professional program?
A little bit about logistics. Like, is there a deadline to apply? Is there like deadline to kind of cancel my registration? Yeah. Like things like that.
Both great questions. So yes, so there is every quarter there's a deadline to apply for the coming quarter. So for fall, the deadline to apply is September 10th. So if you want to apply and enroll in a course, and your application isn't complete until you submit a request to enroll in a course, you would want to do that in the next 12 days, the next roughly 2 weeks. Then for winter courses, our enrollment will open up, I believe, at the end of October, and you have until early December to enroll for winter. And then the same thing, right? There are different sort of enrollment periods, usually about 6 weeks for each quarter. So enrollment opens about 2 months before a quarter begins, and it lasts for about 6 weeks. So that's in terms of that. In terms of the logistics of dropping the class, et cetera. So when you enroll, you pay for the course, and then you can drop it for a full refund up to the day before the courses begin. So if the courses begin on a Monday, you have until that Sunday to drop the course, to email us and say, you know what, I've looked through the material and I'm just not ready for it. Or, very commonly something like a project came up at work and I thought I had all this time this fall and I don't, so I've got to drop the course. That's fine. Once courses begin, you have in most quarters, so autumn, winter and spring, you have 3 weeks before the drop deadline. And you have 3 weeks, it's usually the end of the third week. Up until the end of the third week, you have until then to drop the course. And if you drop the course in those 3 weeks, you get a full refund minus $100 processing fee, right? And so that's really, once the course starts, it's really important that you go in, make sure you can access all the materials. You look at the syllabus, you look at your work schedule, you look at your family schedule, what vacations, those kinds of things you have planned, to make sure everything's going to work out. Look at the exams, et cetera, and then just make sure that it's the right experience for you. And if it isn't, then you let us know and we can drop you. It's important to say that's a pretty hard deadline, that end of the third week, because it's not just our deadline, it's a university deadline, right? So that's when all students have to drop the course. And this is maybe a detail too far, but just to say it is, when you drop the course, nothing will show up on your transcript, right? It's just it's essentially like you never took the course. After that drop deadline, you're not eligible for a refund. And if you leave the course there are some other ways you could do it. So a withdraw would be what you would have to do. If you withdraw from the course, it does show up on your transcript as a withdrawal. Okay, so you'll still see the course will say a withdrawal, and then there's some other things that aren't worth going into detail at this stage. But so again, to repeat, the core idea here is up until before the first day of classes, you can drop for a full refund. After the first day up through the drop deadline, which is usually, but not always, the end of the third week, you can drop for a full refund minus $100 processing fee.
Last question before kind of talking about the professional program. How about international students? And are they required to join the classes online when they are happening?
That's a great question. So yes, no. So great question. No, most students are not. The way that this has been sort of set up is the idea is that most of you are working professionals, and you would not be able to join a lecture from 11 to 12 or whatever time, because even if you're a local in the Bay Area, chances are you're working from 11 to 12. So the expectation is that you would not have to join the class live for the lectures. Now, again, you're going to hopefully be able to make some of the office hours because some of those will be held online, because that's your opportunity to talk real time with a TA or with a faculty member. There will also be discussion boards where you can post your questions. So the short answer is we have plenty of international students who take these classes and do so successfully. In most cases, you do not need to join. The lectures real time. And so you can be flexible about when you do it. Now, it's important to emphasize you still have to meet all the deadlines. So if there's a homework that's due that Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, you need to submit it by 5 p.m. Pacific time. Now, I don't know what time that might be where you are, but you need to make sure, right? So you need to kind of handle those kinds of time zone differences. And as I said, it can be a bit more, if you're an international student and this is something you're really interested in, go in with that. Just understand that there will be some challenges because you will be in a different time zone for most of the students as well as the faculty member. So it can be a challenge. If you post a question at your time, which is 1 a.m. here, it may be a while before you get an answer just because everyone's asleep here. Though actually they're all, computer science graduate students. So actually probably 1 a.m. is a great time, who knows? But so again, the short answer is yes, if you're an international student, this absolutely can work for you. You just need to go in, again, being really careful, looking at that syllabus, looking at the deadlines, looking at the times, and just being aware of that. Petra, any other questions that came up?
I think those were the key questions. And maybe we can move on to the professional program and then come back. I'm sure there will be more questions coming up over the next minutes. Yes. Okay, so let me now talk to you a little bit more about the AI professional program. So as Pax mentioned, in the graduate program, we are offering the actual graduate classes along when they are happening, right? So you'd be taking the actual graduate class that is taught at Stanford with Stanford faculty. In our AI professional program, we use the same content, but what we do, we try to make it a little bit more flexible and manageable for our professional audiences. What does that mean is that we try to lower the time commitment a little bit. So we are finding that the time commitment in the graduate class is maybe around 20 hours per week. It really depends, right? Like some people come with deep knowledge before, some people need more time to kind of catch up. So maybe like 20 to 25 hours a week or like 15 to 20 hours a week, like it really depends. In the professional program, we are trying to take it down to like 10 to 15 hours a week. That said, it's still the same challenging content, the same challenging assignments, but we do a few modifications. We first work on the videos to make them kind of more streamlined. So we are not watching the 1.5 hour long video. Identifying the key assignments and key elements that we should be covering in the professional class. So this might mean that 1 or 2 assignments are removed from the course, from the original class. We never have final exams. We usually don't have final projects as part of our classes. But other than that, the content is basically the same. So you can see here, like the price is a little bit lower. The time commitment is a little bit lower. And what is important to say, and as Pax mentioned, we actually offer some of the classes as part of the both programs. So when Pax was talking about CS224N, natural language processing with deep learning, I will be talking about XCS224N, natural language processing with deep learning, which will include the same content. But we will have, let's say, it's not only, but like we have 5 assignments. We don't have any final exam. The final project has been removed, and it's only included in the other class, natural language understanding. So there are kind of these small pieces that make it a little bit different while keeping the content the same. You're able to take these classes individually. So if you're interested in some specific subject only, you're able to join one class, and you will absolutely, if you pass, get a certificate at the end. If you choose to kind of get the whole certificate, you will be completing 3 courses. So any 3 courses, any combination of 3 courses, and you will be getting professional certificate in artificial intelligence. So we see people who are coming and they are still not sure. So they might be starting, let's say, with XCS 221, artificial intelligence principles and techniques, and they are more interested in kind of the whole generative AI NLP field. So they continue with the NLP and the NLU course afterwards, but it's just kind of one group of people. We have a lot of people who kind of mix and match depending on their interests and schedule. Some people are more interested in kind of the machine learning and reinforcement learning area. So all of that is possible. In terms of, again, the specifics, let me kind of point out a few. As I mentioned, directly based off Stanford graduate level equivalence. We use recorded lectures. So on the first day of the class, you're not waiting for this kind of the videos to be released by week, but you already have access to everything, all the assignments, all the course content, all the videos. So you're able to also work a little bit more ahead and behind the schedule. We also have a little bit more flexible deadlines that we allow you to sometimes we always allow you to submit later. We have some late submission deadlines and something like that, really trying to make it a little bit more manageable for professional folks. We run these courses in 10 weeks cohort, so you still are getting kind of similar intense, very intense, challenging experience. And generally, I would say we have around 120 learners joining the same class at the same time, let's say. So if you're joining, let's say, XCS 221, artificial intelligence principles and techniques, you will likely be joined by a big group of people from all around the globe who are interested in the same class, which gives some opportunity in networking and getting to know folks who are working on similar problems as you are at work. As Pax was talking about, we still have mix of written and programming assignments. We don't have the final exams in this case. And in terms of support, we don't have teaching assistants as in the graduate class, but we do hire industry experienced course facilitators who took the original graduate class and also work in the industry. So they're also able to kind of bring that industry experience into the discussion. So they are helping with the subject matter, with the content related to questions with folks. We also try to host group office hours for the assignments, depending on the course, to kind of give some sort of an introduction. And they are there to kind of help you if you need to jump on one-on-one call or things like that. All that said, it will still be challenging, and it's kind of still your responsibility to make sure that you complete the assignments. But we do hope that this kind of provides you with an option to get support you need, get your questions answered. The other aspect, we have Slack that I would say is generally very vibrant and very active, that people, also classmates, tend to help each other. Course facilitators are there, so they're helping each other. So it kind of, we think it's one of the benefits of joining these courses. In terms of passing and what is kind of the requirement in terms of passing, our courses are pass-fail, which is something important to say. So when Pax was talking about you need to get a specific grade because you're getting graded in the graduate program, professional, we don't give you a grade. So you're either passing and getting the certificate, or you're not passing and not getting the certificate. And you will need 70% to pass. So again, this gives you a little bit more flexibility. You see there are these little pieces that all together bring some flexibility in making this happen. But that said, I don't want to kind of pretend that these classes are easy. They're definitely challenging. And we know that, people actually sometimes sweat a lot while working on the assignments, but hopefully at the end it's rewarding and they learn what they need to know about the subject. And as I mentioned, if you complete 3 courses, you will get a professional certificate. I took a few screenshots just to give you a little bit more idea of what am I talking about, what does this all mean. So this is an example of a schedule for upcoming class that is starting on September 11, NLP with deep learning. So on the left side, and I'm realizing it's probably too small, but you see some kind of suggesting pacing guide for the videos that you are able to watch with assignment deadlines coming up. In this particular course, the assignments get more difficult as time progresses. So you see that the first assignment deadlines are close to each other, then it gets further away. You're always able to submit the assignments late. Plus, we have standardly scheduled live calls, such as assignment, group office hours, We have calls like, we try to always schedule some industry-related session that would be talking a little bit more about the applications in the industry. We always try to have one Q&A at least with the faculty. We can never promise that because they're very busy, but we always try to do that. So there are also live calls, so it's not all just boring like you watching the lectures behind a computer. We try to make it like more active, also including the Slack. Written assignments, again, just a screenshot. So for the written ones, if a class has a written assignment, we include some additional hints to hopefully make it a little bit easier. But again, we are not trying to make it easy. So this is what you might see, but the questions are again from the original graduate level content. You might be required to like write some written analysis and proofs, which some people don't really appreciate after like, you know, spending many years in the industry and coming back to this. But like, I must say that not all classes included this. We have some classes that are more kind of programming heavy. Some of them are kind of mix and match depending on the original graduate class. So as Pax mentioned before, and I will repeat it now and probably once again, we recommend that you take a look at the Stanford online YouTube channel, where we usually are able to share all the resources kind of publicly for free in terms of the video content. And also the graduate lectures or graduate classes offer a lot of materials like online. So if you search the class, graduate class online, you are able to kind of preview some of the topics that will be covered and can really give you the best idea of what to expect, like what the assignments look like what is actually the subject about. Programming assignments in the professional class, we develop auto-graders for you, so you're able to kind of locally debug, like upload it, get some feedback, being able to kind of improve your score as you go. So we see that this is very helpful in terms of kind of debugging and making sure you get to the higher score later on. And one big element is kind of the whole community, course facilitators, the industry experience course facilitators, and all your classmates, right? Because you won't be the only person joining this course from the industry or from wherever you work. So it's like a good kind of, I would say, binding mechanism to like get to know your classmates. Yeah, in terms of, and let me take a breath and maybe take a quick look at the questions, but I will go back to the prerequisites afterwards.
Petra, just a few questions there may be worth, in terms of the projects, if you could talk a little bit more about those. Are those individual, those group work? Is it an option to do either way?
So if I go back to the list of the courses, only one course, XCS 224U Natural Language Understanding, currently offers a project work. The rest will be kind of a combination usually of written and programming assignments. The project work in NLU class is open-ended, so it's not like sometimes our competitions like has this kind of predefined project that you follow and like you have very specific requirement that you need to write down and like very specific answer you need to get to. Like it's not like that. Like you can really pick a topic based on your own interest. And we also encourage people to work in teams for this particular class. So you can form a team up to 3 people and work on the project together. So you know, the subjects and content, it really depends. We have people working on predicting stock prices based on sentiment analysis of something. We have people really interested in recipe development based on what they have in the fridge. Like it really like depends. So those are kind of the 2 subjects that came to my mind, but like really people work on different things depending on their interest. But I see a bunch of questions about the prerequisites also, so I will jump on over here. For professional program, there is a short application where we will basically ask you to tell us about your proficiency in these 3 things. So we will ask you about your name, where do you work, why are you interested, but then we will be mainly covering the prerequisites. And we expect that you are proficient in Python. All the classes require Python because that's basically the main programming language we are using. College calculus, linear algebra, probability theory, those are the same reasons as Pax was mentioning before for the graduate class, especially for the written assignments, but also for coding, it will be really required. So if you did take classes like this maybe 20 years back when you were in the grad school, it's totally okay, but we do recommend that you kind of try to get back to it before you join the first course, because some of this might be like really kind of foreign after some time. I also saw a lot of questions coming up about, oh, I took data science, or like I took math for machine learning, or like classes like that, or like deep learning specialization or machine learning specialization, or like different classes that are available online. That's totally fine. Like you don't need to have degree in computer science to join these classes, absolutely not. But we still ask you to kind of identify how you meet this criteria. So it might be, I took these 3 classes, I feel confident, great. If you just tell us you feel confident, we will likely not accept you. So we just ask you for a little bit more context. But you don't need to have kind of a formal degree in computer science to join these classes. We have people from a really variety of backgrounds. And I talked about industry, but we also get a lot of kind of students in their final year of grad school that would like to kind of take a class in this subject. We get a lot of professors who would like to kind of get familiar with the subject. We get a lot of people who are startup owners, who are already retired, but they would like to kind of keep up with all the trends that are going on. So it's really like the profiles of people who are joining these programs really varies. And I think we just have kind of a summary after this, but I will go and take a look at the questions, and maybe Pax, if you saw some questions that I can help answering, let me know.
I think there are a lot of questions about what's covered in the particular courses and where's a good place to start. And so a couple things I'll say is, one, again, a lot of this material, especially on the graduate side, and again, the professional courses are based on the graduate certificate. A lot of this is publicly available. And so you can, in many cases, so for instance, one of the more popular courses is CS224N, Natural Language Processing. You can see, I think we have 3 years of lecture videos available on YouTube, and some of those lecture videos are what are used in the professional certificate. So you can go look at those lecture recordings to get a sense of the quality of the recording, and then you can go to the course website for CS224N and take a look at what the assignments are and what the pacing is for the graduate side. I think that we know it's a big investment, so we don't, please do take some time, take a look at those courses. A lot of this material is available publicly. If you're not sure, if you're interested in the graduate certificate, but you're not sure, that would definitely be the place to start. You could also take a professional course and see how that is, because you'll know that they are very closely based on the graduate certificate. They're less expensive. You don't get any kind of academic credit, but you will learn the material, and you'll get a sense of whether you feel like that was, you would be ready to take a graduate course. We did get some questions about the master's degree in computer science at Stanford. So there is just a computer science master's degree. There is a way to do that on a part-time or online basis. Right now, for computer science, you can only pursue the master's degree online if you're in the US. They're not accepting international people who are going to live internationally. It is the same application, so it's not through us. You would just apply to the department, and you would indicate that you're interested in pursuing it on a part-time basis. The master's degree is hugely competitive. They get thousands and thousands of applications for a very limited number of spots. They generally do not have informational sessions, and I would just go to the computer science website to see, to find out more about what their application requirements are, and more about their program there. So I do want to emphasize the graduate certificate or computer science classes taken as a non-degree student do not in any way guarantee you to get into the master's degree. You'll have a Stanford transcript that you can submit as part of your application, but that's not a guarantee. A lot of obviously Stanford students apply for those master's degrees as well. Petra, did you see? I'll add one more thing for the graduate courses as well. For international students who are taking it abroad, you obviously do not need to have a visa or anything in the U.S. You can just take it from abroad, and you won't need to submit. You don't need a U.S. visa because you're not studying in the U.S. You're studying from wherever you are. And so there's a question, in terms of transferring AI certificate programs, graduate programs towards other master's degrees, that'll depend on the master's degree. I would take a look at the master's degrees requirements. Often, the specific questions about management science and engineering, often there will be electives that are, any 200 level class in the School of Engineering or something like that. But I'm not familiar enough with the elective requirements for management science and engineering to be able to answer that specifically. So I just go to the master's degrees programs and take a look to make sure that these classes would count towards that.
I saw a few questions about kind of the required sequence or where to get started. Also, there were a few, so I will follow up on that. There were also a few questions like, can you help me with kind of career transition, or can you help me with kind of research opportunities? Since we are really focused on education and we are part of Stanford University, we can't really do that. So unfortunately, like the answer to those questions would be no. I saw that coming up a few times, so just wanted to clarify that. But let me kind of cover the first question. Like I saw it also multiple times, where to get started, or like what is a good sequence. I would say it really depends on your kind of prior knowledge, experience, and the interest. In the professional program, you can really mix and match, and you can also just take one course if you want. So that hopefully already gives you some flexibility. If you are really unsure, you might have the right prerequisites, but still like you're not really familiar with the whole area of AI, machine learning. We generally recommend that the XCS 221 Artificial Intelligence Principles and Techniques is a good course to start with, because it covers a lot of subjects that are also covered in the other classes. So it's a busy course. There are 6 assignments in that, combination of coding and written. But you know, like on the other hand, it really gives you kind of a good overview. So if you feel like this is something that might be valuable, I would recommend to get started with that. Again, it depends. Especially this year, we are getting a lot of people interested in XCS 224N and XCS 224U, the NLP class and NLU class, because all the generative AI and like everything that is going on in the industry. That said, like as we mentioned, all these classes have prerequisites, so just kind of be mindful of that. So take a look, like what might be the right level of knowledge to know. But if this is kind of your interest that you would like to catch up, like those might be the courses you might want to consider. But I don't want to disrespect any other classes. XCS 229 Machine Learning and XCS 234 Reinforcement Learning, those are really good fundamental classes in these subjects, meaning that you really get the depth and breadth of both of these. And generally, like when we talk to our faculty and we talk to our kind of academic director, Chris Manning, about why do these courses tend to be like challenging? Why do people need to do these like proofs and stuff like that? It really helps you better debug and like being able to come up with your own solutions and like innovative ways how to solve problems at work. And we do think there are some questions about like competition, right? Like how does this compare to Google AI certificate and stuff like that? We really try to help you with really getting the deep understanding, because we really think that Stanford, that's the offer that, you know, they can give you. Those are the people who were part of the development of many of the algorithms they are teaching. So they really can give you the deep knowledge in both the graduate and the professional certificate. And then you're really able to kind of take it and being able to really being more, let's say, independent, right? Like you're not really restricted with the packages that are off the shelf. XCS 224W Machine Learning with Graphs, that's just coding a class. There are 5 coding assignments. It's really specific to kind of the graph, different sort of, I don't know if you know how to explain it. As you can see, like not the real subject matter expert, but he would be getting the real subject matter expert from our people. But like anything supporting like the kind of the graph, neural networks, and all these kind of subjects you would be learning about in this class. The deep multitask and meta learning, that's the last class and the latest class we added to the portfolio. That goes really beyond, I would say, like much far ahead of all of these. It's a new class also taught at Stanford by Chelsea Finn, and she's trying to basically teach you also like how to make also like algorithms think out of the box and like out of kind of the tasks they have been able to resolve in the past. So really, again, like more innovative, but again, like this class especially is more challenging. If you're looking for something to get started with, I would say the first AI Principles and Techniques, that's a good class. 224N, Natural Language Processing with Deep Learning, is a good class. 229 Machine Learning is a good class if you would like to kind of step ahead and take the other classes afterwards. But again, it's like fundamental in its nature. So there's a lot of kind of depth and breadth of the material. And I'm talking so much, so I will pause and Pax, any other questions?
No, I think you answered a lot of them that have come up. And again, there are a lot of questions of where to start, or if you're not ready for these kinds of classes. Again, Stanford Online, our website, that there are a lot of other options that are listed there that are not as advanced. So Petra mentioned the deep learning specializations through Coursera. We have an AI in healthcare through Coursera that I think is more entry level. And then there are other graduate courses that you can take that are something like the introductory programming or computer science classes, CS 106A and B is what they're called. I saw a question whether 106A would be adequate for these. It would not be. That would not be enough programming background for a lot of these. So you can take some of those. In addition, we saw some questions about specific subject matter. If you're an expert and you're looking for, the development of a particular area, I would just recommend looking through our catalog because you would probably be able to identify and answer that better than we can. I saw a specific question about robotics. There is a graduate certificate in robotics and autonomous systems. And there are a lot of courses around that, including, and in fact, part of the AI graduate program is the 2-course introductory sequence on robotics that is taught here at Stanford. It's 2 quarters, and it's meant to give people kind of a holistic understanding of robotics. So you do a little bit of everything from sensors and gripping and planning, et cetera. So you get a kind of a sense of the whole robot so that you can sense of how these things integrate. Let's see here. The AI, and we're seeing again specific things so Petra went through, I think, for the professional program. For the graduate program, it's largely the same. We generally don't recommend starting with CS 229 as your very first Stanford graduate course, just because it is a very hard course, and so people are often caught off guard by that. We would recommend something like CS 221 or another. It doesn't have to be in the AI graduate certificate. You could start with another one. A lot of people like starting with something like CS 109, which is not unfortunately offered this fall, but is one it's called Probability for Computer Scientists. And it goes over the probability, but it's again with an eye towards computer science. I think it does even get a little bit of the machine learning towards the end. And it's a good course for considering that. We see some questions as well about financial aid. Unfortunately, generally speaking, there isn't financial aid for non-degree students. And I don't believe we offer financial aid on the professional side either. So
we don't, but all that said, like all the materials are available online. Right. So that's why we hope that it's helpful. We absolutely understand it. Like, the costs might be too high for some folks. And, we appreciate that. So I would recommend that you take a look at Stanford Online YouTube, and also the resources.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot that's available out there. Here. I see. So there's a similar question, I think, Petra, for the professional program, you do not need to be continuously enrolled either. So I don't know, is there a specific period of time in which you need to complete all 3 courses in order to be awarded the certificate?
There's no timeline, so you can really schedule your time as you need. And I just remember there was one more question about scheduling. So if you go to the Artificial Intelligence Professional Program page, you will see the upcoming classes. But we generally run all classes 2 to 3 times a year, depending on the class. So like if you don't see it, it doesn't really fit your schedule, you can come back and take it at a later time. And since there is no deadline to complete and you don't need to be continuously enrolled, it really depends on like kind of what's going on outside of the education for you.
And Petra, I'm going to jump ahead here back to the, I should actually jump ahead to the, I just want to go back to the comparison slide. So let me pull that up. And because we're reaching the end here, a couple other questions that came up. So in terms of if you are enrolled in a graduate course or a professional course, so for the graduate certificate, for all the graduate courses that we offer, we have a student orientation every single quarter. So that will be happening the week before courses start, and courses will be starting on September 25th, I believe. It's Tuesday. It's a Tuesday. I think it's the 25th or the 26th. And so that's when those courses will be starting. The week before that, we will be sending out an invitation to everyone who's already enrolled even if your enrollment hasn't reached final approval, we'll still invite you to an orientation. That's where we'll go over more specific logistics for getting ready for the fall quarter. For the professional program, each course, I believe, has an orientation. Is that correct, Petra?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so you'll get an orientation for each of those courses before you begin. And then let's see here. In terms of cost, so the graduate courses are $1,456 per unit, and most of them are 3 to 4 units. So you're looking, they're $5,000 to $7,000 a course. They're expensive. It's full tuition. For the professional certificate, Petra, is it currently $1,750 per course? Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so $1,750 per course. And again, that's another reason for us to try to offer these in different ways. For the graduate certificate and the graduate courses, as a non-degree student, we still have to charge kind of full Stanford tuition, which we know is a lot. The professional we can offer at a much lower rate. For those of you who do, we often don't know specifics around company policy, so I would reach out to your own organization. I see that question about what are kind of reimbursements. That's usually happening at the company level, so I'd reach out to whoever your learning development officer is or HR and see what kind of what kind of reimbursement they might offer. Sometimes they offer it for both programs. Sometimes they only offer it for the credit-bearing programs. So I think that's probably, we've gotten through most of them. We may not have gotten through all of them. We apologize. We will, we'll have another session like this in the future. And again, if you've enrolled, we'll have orientations. A recording of this will be sent out after in about a week or two. So you'll be able to watch it if you missed it, and we will also have it on YouTube. And I'd recommend, as kind of ending this, is we know it's a big investment in time and money, so we highly recommend you go out, you look at the course pages that we have in our catalog, but you also just look at the actual course websites for a lot of these graduate course pages and just see what the material is, see if that's what you're interested in, and then go to our YouTube channel and watch a lot of the lecture videos. You can get a lot out of them and learn a lot there. So Petra, is there anything last minute that you wanted to add?
Maybe only if you have a question and we didn't get to the answer, we really apologize. We are really doing our best on the kind of the back end with the whole team, but we will post a mailing list that you are welcome to use if you have any kind of follow-up questions for us. And let me make sure that we post it. And
the last thing, as you're getting that posted, is just for the graduate courses for fall quarter, enrollment is open right now, and it will close September 10th. So you have about 12 days if you're interested in submitting an application and a request to enroll in one of those courses. Petra, I think all the AI professional courses are currently open for enrollment. They all start at different times. So what's the next course that's starting and when is it? And sorry, in the AI, the graduate courses will start, as I said, I believe it's Tuesday, I think September 25th or the 26th. I should just look that up right now. And then Petra,
so if you are like new, as we talked, maybe XCS 221, artificial intelligence principles and techniques might be potentially a good fit. Like, it really depends. But that course is starting October 2nd. If you want to kind of ride the whole NLP surfing journey this year, XCS 224N NLP with deep learning is starting on September 11th. So kind of close, like kind of shortly. You will need to kind of apply if you don't have an application on file. So we recommended you get started with the application early. And we did post the email if you have more questions. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If we didn't get to your question, we really apologize, but we'll make sure to get to your email afterwards.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you or seeing you in a class in the future.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.